friends, and welcome to the Knowing Show. I am your host, Christine. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm excited for tonight. This morning, during our morning show, somebody popped this question in the chat, and no, maybe it was yesterday morning. I don't remember, but somebody asked this question. I think it was this morning. How to have a bold personality, and I've never heard that question. And so frankly, I'm going to have this tonight be a little bit of a forum where we talk honestly with each other, and we talk about what does it actually look like to walk in freedom of you and me being who we are. And the boldness of a personality, so much of the time that is only for you and I to determine. I think even as I say that word bold, I just thought of the lion from the Wizard of Oz. Obviously, a lion will be bold and brave, but he was petrified. And so there's something around, it does not matter how you look. It does not matter what your voice sounds like. It does not matter all of the external qualities around us. Only you and I know the inner posture of our heart and whether we have that boldness to begin with. Because you might actually come across as having a bold personality, but are you actually having a bold spirit and a bold heart within you where you are willing to speak the truth and willing to stand in the limelight when you're doing so alone and everyone else is running? So that's what we're talking about tonight. Good evening. Just hopping over here to the chat. Wayne, hello. I would let you say, what's up? I love it. Wayne, tell me about your day as people are joining. Man in the Hat, good evening. You should be receiving your package very soon. Janae on my team actually sent it out earlier. I think she sent it out Thursday last week. Wayne, confidence and fearlessness. I would love to hear from you guys on how your day has gone. I feel very, very aware. I was on a meeting today and I just kept saying, I just need to finish this book. I just need to finish this book. And so now I'm like, I just need to finish this book. So we'll probably keep tonight's conversation rather short, just to really make sure. I am honestly going through all of the comments I made throughout and along the way, and just doing like a quick refresher and run through of each chapter, just to make sure that when I hand it off to my editor, that it'll be like a breeze for her and that she won't be handing it back to me saying, what are these comments? So I made some of these comments back in December and November when I was doing the first review of the book. And so I did like the last third of it over the last, well, honestly, I guess, last quarter of it over the last couple weeks. So the last 5 months have marked me doing the final copy edits, and I don't even remember the first couple of chapters. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm so close to being done. But anyways, Amarez, good to see you. James, good evening. I'm glad you're here. Ray, y'all, we are going to be talking tonight about a bold personality. This was a question posed this morning in our morning chat. And so as we jump into this conversation, we are kind of in the last few weeks of having this community where it's publicly, where I guess you could say public access to the chat. So with that, I'm just asking for honoring me and each other in the chat, and we'll have a wonderful, wonderful conversation. We are going to go for about 25 minutes tonight. I am in the final throes of editing and finishing my book, and so we're going to talk about how to have a bold personality in the next 20 minutes or so. I would love to know, first off, how's everybody doing? How's everyone's day been? Happy Monday. Tomorrow is, who here actually does St. Patty's Day, like really does it, and I feel like honors the holiday. I was looking around at some local things happening, and there's like Irish dances taking place, and I think I'm going to see Riverdance next month, which I'm really excited for. But it's cool to see how many people are like really honoring the holiday of St. Patrick's Day. Wayne says, I feel excited. Thanks for asking. I haven't been very active all winter. I'm going back to work tomorrow. Life is good. Sweet. Everything's working out for me. I'm so glad. I love that. How was your day? It was good. Oh my gosh, it was really good. Y'all, I hate selling, and I freaking hate it. Like, it is a problem. I had 2 conversations. One, I did a cold outreach to this this group, they have a contracting or a construction, they work in the trades. And so I did a cold outreach because, we've got a digital marketing company for them, and I offered to take them to lunch and just get to know them. And, if something comes of it, great. If not, I'm so grateful to meet you and know you. And we had a wonderful lunch. And at the end, they were like, thank you so much for reaching out. We're actually looking for a digital marketing agency right now. And it was perfect timing. And we loved, you sent a voice note. It was really personal. And it was really encouraging to hear that, because now I can serve them and I can really help their business grow because I know how to do it. I know we're going to do an amazing job. And it was just really encouraging because I have such an aversion to selling that it was encouraging to see how they're like, no, he thanked me 2 times, one in the middle of the conversation and right when I was leaving. He's like, bye, thank you again for reaching out. So that was cool to see. So I feel heartened. And the second, and then the second thing somebody said to me today, they were like, you're not, I need to write, I wish I had written down what he said. He was like, you're not selling a transaction, you're selling a transformation. He's like, you're not selling coaching, you're selling transformation, the work that people move through. And I was just like, yeah. So I think I'm going through a real mindset shift around selling and having money associated with what I do, which in one sense, it's like, well, obviously we need to make money, but I just know, I've seen how hard it is for people, and they don't have money and they need help. Like they need love and they need knowing and they need so I've got the digital marketing business, but even still, I still don't like charging anything for even the knowing retreats. Like I want everything in life to be free, and I just want everyone to receive the care and support that they need. And I just know how it is to be on the side of like struggling, so anyways, I had a good day. Those were really encouraging conversations. Abdul, hey ma'am, I can design a thumbnail for you. If you'd like me to design for you, let me know. That sounds cool. I have a great design team, but feel free to send anything my way if you want to. The Man in the Hat. Oh, that's great. I'm really looking forward to reading the book. You speak so highly of it. And to drink from the mug. I'm so excited for you to have a mug. So for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, so we've been playing trivia every single Wednesday. So come and join us. We'll actually be, I think we will be in a half hour early. We'll go from 5 to 6 or not 5 to 6. I'm sorry. I think we'll go maybe from 7:30 to 8:30 Eastern this Wednesday. So just beware of that. And Man in the Hat won twice, 2 weeks in a row. So we sent him 2 different prizes. Tony Warner, hello. How do you even start a book? Well, honestly, so everybody has a process, right? My process has been to write, to just start writing and to not edit as I go. So if I'm thinking about a concept, and maybe you know the title of your book, maybe you know the outline already, great. Start writing the chapters. And 80%, they're so true, 80% of the book is in the editing. And so I spent way too much time editing as I was writing, and then spent another 80% of the time. So with the amount of time I spent in writing plus editing while I was going, that was only 20%. It has taken a full, almost 2 years to go back and edit. And as I've edited, I've added more, which then takes a whole other round. So I would say get everything out on paper. I would even consider, depending on how you think and how you write, to maybe even voice record yourself moving through different chapters, and then transcribe it. There's so many different ways to go about writing a book, but the way that I found it most helpful was when I stopped trying to edit as I was writing and just let my subconscious flow. That's when it was really, really helpful. So that's what I would say. That's how I got started. Was I just started recording in real time, writing in real time, for this process, for this topic, knowing I was moving through the journey of my own coming to know who I am. And so I was just starting to record the process, and it would be I wrote in real time. And I even said today, I had this experience and this is what I learned. And, it was, so it's very real time, I guess you could say. But even if you don't keep timestamps or accurate dates associated with your writing, being able to write in the process rather than having the curated environment and trying to make, because the curated environment came in the editing, where it was like, I'm going to go take 3 to 5 days to go edit the heck out of this thing. But the writing of it was real-time inspiration for me, and, you know, still dedicating a week here or there. But I think depending on the style of what you're writing, the topic, really being able to write when you're feeling inspired, if it's something about you and what you're learning. Rote, hello. Or Ronte, hello. Good to see you. Keep moving. Sachin, I am going to put you on timeout because we don't talk like that here. Abdul, I can design your book cover. I already have a design. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to not give you work. But send me your portfolio. We're always looking to, you know, freelance stuff. Sachin, hello, man in the hat. Thank you. You know, it's the same ones. Never anything new. That's so funny. Brian J, hello. Good to see you. BSF. All right, y'all, we are going to start diving into this conversation tonight around having a bold personality. You know, this question was posed in this morning's conversation. And, you know, I found it to be interesting because, one, I've never heard somebody ask, how do you have, you know, how can I develop, how can I create, how can I make myself have a bold personality? And I think that there's something, in order for us to know, the goal is to really tap into, and not just tap into, but to be and live and exude the most you, the most authentic, true you. Who were you created to be? And to uncover that. 𝐤𝐚𝐢𝐥𝐲 was asked, how did you sculpt David? Like, how did you create this incredible, beautiful structure, work of art? And he said, I just uncovered everything that David was not. And y'all, that is so much of the goal of this show, knowing who are you and uncovering the layers and peeling back everything that's been added to you that's not really you. And that's not also who you want to be. But before we can really go and say, okay, who do I want to be? In order for us to be able to get to ask those questions of what's the new target? Who do I want to be? You know, what's my dream? So much of the time we actually have to do the unlayering process, removing the excess, eliminating the noise and the external that's been kind of vomited onto us by society, by our wonderful, well-meaning caregivers, whether that was parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, whoever had an influence on our lives. But they were coming from their own wounds and from their own limited mindsets, from their own lack mindset. Whatever it is that was embedded in us was layered and added onto us that we need to remove. And so in the removing of it, we kind of like get back and reduce down. We actually, in some ways, in the shedding and the removing, it's an untethering from the past, untethering to people. Because in that process, we're going to stop asking, I wonder, like, who did they want me to be? And that's a very subconscious thought. But y'all, I was teaching. So this is a mastermind room full of million dollar entrepreneurs, right? They've got $1 million businesses. That's their prerequisite to be in this class. So I'm doing an exercise with them, and we identified 6 core areas in their life. Financial, emotional, relational, familial. We ranked all these different areas. And I said, I want you to rank it on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being least healthy, 10 being like, man, you're killing it. You're doing so well. And then I want you to say, this is my target. This is my goal in this area. And then the third thing, what's the one thing that you need to do to get to make that number become a 10? So how would you rank it? What's your target? What's your goal in that area? And then what's the one thing that you need to change in that area to make it be a 10? And we all, everybody did the exercise. Nobody was really thinking much about it. I mean, they were taking it seriously. But as we started talking about it, man, it was wild. I asked every single person after they wrote all this out, I said, who set that target? And so many people said, well, I don't know. Like, I just kind of always assume, I'm just kind of like in this industry, and that's what everyone else says is success in being a CPA, this is what success looks like. For other people, they said, well, honestly, it was what my dad said I was really, really good at. So I just kind of ended up becoming a business advisor, So it was so interesting that as we started really diving in, their targets were not theirs. Their targets were informed by other people on a societal level, on a familial level. It was handed down. It was passed on to them. It was like, hey, here, that's who you get to be. And they're like, okay, this is what success means. And then we did the exercise all over again, where it was, okay, here's the ranking. Here's my ideal. Here's my target. And some of them were like, I have no idea what my target would be in spirituality. How do I even know if I'm healthy in that area of my life? What do I even want that to look like? So when they really started getting out of autopilot and really started thinking for themselves in terms of what is success for me? What do I want in this category of my life? And then the question of, okay, what's one thing to do to change? Someone even, and here's the thing, as they ranked the health, we also ranked in the second round, we ranked the prioritization of it. Because now, for the entrepreneurs who had millions and millions of dollars in the bank, it was actually no longer business being their number one goal. It was now health. And they're like, I actually have not felt well in 20 years, and I'd love to recover my health. So now, all of a sudden, when they remove societal opinions and expectations, when they put themselves in the driver's seat of their life, suddenly everything reevaluates and reprioritizes based on what they want, what they're called to do, their passion, what they love. And y'all, sometimes actually our family is higher up on the hierarchy of the prioritization list than what society says it should be. My darling, he's got 2 boys. He loves his boys. His boys come number one every time. Over business, over family, over me. We'll talk about that. and that's beautiful. That's so beautiful. That is so anti what I see most men these days. Most men will put anyone and anything, for the most part, over their kids. It's just like, oh, they'll always be there. But he knows the value of his children. He knows the value of the ages that they're at right now. And so he sees just like this every day shortening window of time to love on them and influence them and teach them and invest in them, play with them. And so because of that, he orients so much of his days around his children. And then after his boys, and even here's the thing that he and I did a session together around the known founder. And in this process, we actually identified that even before his boys, his health needs to become number one, because, his boys would actually like to have him alive, because he's been struggling pretty significantly with a health concern. So actually, in making his boys number one, he would actually have to put his health as number one. So y'all, thinking about the prioritization of our own goals has to rest on who do I want to be? What do I want to do? How do I, what am I called to do? What is my divine assignment? Why am I here? And then this question of, all right, how do I have a bold personality? There's something around, let's define terms when it comes to boldness. Boldness does not mean loud. It does not mean sucking up all the energy of the room, but what it means is that there is a courage. And you know what? I'm going to do this. I've done it before. I just love Theodore Roosevelt's quote from his 1914 speech in Paris. And I'm going to read that. It's called Citizens. And I'm typing this on my phone because every time I open a tab, my computer or my stream slows down. Speech. All right, I'm going to read this. I'm going to read a section of it because, y'all, it is so, I get emotional when I read this. It is so powerful. All right. And most people know the section as the man in the arena. That's the section that they pull out. But it's actually the context that builds up to that section of the speech that is so powerful for me. All right. Okay. Ready? It's so small on my phone. I feel like I'm an old lady. All right. All right. Let those who have keep. Let those who have not strive to attain. I'm just going to start over. Let those who have keep. Let those who have not strive to attain a high standard of cultivation and scholarship. Yet let us remember that these stand second to certain other things. There is need of a sound body and even more of a sound mind. But above mind and above body stands character, the sum of those qualities which we mean when we speak of a man's force and courage, of his good faith and sense of honor. I believe in exercise for the body. I always provided that we keep in mind that physical development is a means and not an end. I believe, of course, in giving all of the people a good education, but the education must contain much besides book learning in order to be really good. We must ever remember that no keenness or subtleness of intellect, no polish, no cleverness in any way make up for the lack of great solid qualities: self-restraint, self-mastery, common sense, the power of accepting individual responsibility, and yet of acting in conjunction with others, courage and resolution. These are the qualities which mark a masterful people. Without them, no people can control itself or save itself from being controlled from the outside. I speak to a brilliant assemblage. I speak in a great university, which represents the flower of the highest intellectual development. I pay all homage to intellect and to elaborate and specialized training of the intellect. And yet I know I shall have the asset of all you present when I add that more important still are the commonplace, everyday qualities and virtues. Such ordinary, everyday qualities, the will and the power to work, to fight at need, and to have plenty of healthy children. I love it. It's just so practical. The need that every average man shall work is so obvious as hardly to warrant insistence. There are a few people in every country so born that they can lead a life of leisure. These fill a useful function if they make it evident that leisure does not mean idleness. For some of the most valuable work needed by, in large part, needed by civilization is essentially non-remunerative in its character. And of course, the people who do this work should in large part be drawn from them, to whom remuneration is an object of indifference. And I'm just going to jump down. In the next place, the good man should be both strong and brave. And that is, he should be able to fight and should be able to serve his country as a soldier should the need arise. There are well-meaning philosophers who declaim against the unrighteousness of war. They are right only if they lay all their emphasis upon the unrighteousness. War is a dreadful thing, and unjust war is a crime against humanity. But is such a crime because it is unjust, not because it is war? The choice must ever be in favor of the righteousness, and this whether the alternative be peace or whether the alternative be war. The question must not merely be, is there to be peace or war? The question must be, is the right to prevail? Are the great laws of righteousness once more to be fulfilled? And the answer from a strong and virile people must be yes, whatever the cost. Every honorable effort should always be made to avoid war, just as every honorable effort should always be made by the individual in private life to keep out of brawl and to keep out of trouble. But no self-respecting individual, no self-respecting nation can or ought to submit to the wrong. And I'm just going to jump down to one more place. I just love how long these speeches were. They're so long. It's also good, but it's also very long. So I'm just going to go down. Oh, well, I wanted to go to the part that I really, really loved, but I don't want to keep you all waiting. I'm Guessing I was just supposed to read that. All right, y'all. The point that I wanted to get to in this effectively is getting to the point around being bold, being courageous is for you and me. No one else, everyone else could be watching. Sure, everybody else could actually be pointing the finger and actually sneering at us and being the critic and having an opinion on how we're fighting and how we're doing. But the person in the arena, the person willing to be bold and to be courageous and do the work is the one to whom receives the inner fulfillment, the inner delight in knowing I have fallen greatly, I have failed triumphantly, or I am tasting the sweetness of winning in the arena. But either way, I'm experiencing life. I'm being bold and courageous and showing up. But here's why what's going on outside of us actually does not matter very much, because just like the Lion in the Wizard of Oz, everyone assumes the lion is going to be brave. He looks big, and he has all of the aura and the countenance of courage. But only you and I really know what's going on inside of us. We always see this actually with the people who end up taking their life. So often it's the ones we never thought had depression or were sad. We're caught by surprise. And y'all, this is where it's, okay, are you being bold externally, lacking the courage internally? Or are you actually encompassing what you like, learning how to be courageous inside? It doesn't have to be bold by other people's definition. You are the judge. You can only be the one to attest. Am I living bravely? Am I living courageously? Am I being the very best that I can be? Or am I shrinking? Am I hiding my light? Am I hiding in the shadows because I don't know what's going to happen? The thing about the thing about this in so many ways is that I think to be bold, we have to be brave enough to sit in the discomfort of what might happen on the other side of it. There is a vulnerability in courage because we don't know how it's going to be received. We don't know how people are going to react. Maybe we'll be rejected. Maybe our idea won't be accepted. Maybe the love or the service or the holding the door, whatever it is, maybe that action, that behavior is not going to be appreciated or wanted. But y'all, it is, okay, am I doing this for the right reason? What's the why behind my act of courage? What is the inner state of my commitment to actually being and moving in accordance with the person that I want to be? And y'all, when we're acting from that authentic place, that's why authenticity matters so much with courage, because am I doing it for show? Am I doing it for the accolades? Am I doing it for the applause? Because if we're doing it for that, if we're doing it for anybody else, we're more than likely going to end up being crushed. Somebody asked me today, actually a guest, I was on her podcast today, and she had been on my show, and she was like, after we finished the conversation, I opened the chat box because I told her, I was like, don't look at the chat while we go live because it's distracting and you're going to see things you don't like. And she asked me today, she was like, how do you not let all the bad stuff get to you and all the good stuff get to you? And the thing is that the more we attune our ear to the applause of others, and the more we attune our ear to the hate or rejection of others, the more impacted we're going to be, and thus moved off course. Here's the thing. With us having like a horse with blinders on, like where we're not letting what's going on outside of us impact our internal state, we then can move in the authenticity of who we are, our mission and our call, and move in accordance with it. And then have the rejection, no problem. Have the applause, no problem. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And I'm going and moving, and I'm being bold and being brave. But boldness has to be rooted in the authentic place that is effectively coming from like the quiet of the soul, where you've done the time. You've done the time. You've taken the time to sit with and know who you are, so that this act of boldness, this act of courage is rooted and grounded in something that outlasts you and becomes your legacy. So that the external manifestation of this inner strength, this inner boldness, is exactly what is actually needed for the occasion. If we're doing and acting for show, if we're moving and deciding how we're going to show up to look good or to even impress other people, man, it's it's going to be felt. People can tell. I know I can always tell. I can tell when I'm out of alignment, and how much more so can other people tell when we're out of alignment too. So this conversation, being rooted and grounded, whatever boldness looks like for you, whatever the situation may call for, make sure that it's rooted and grounded in authenticity. And the only way we can be authentic is to really know who we are and who we were created to be. And even this question of, who do I want to be? And so this question of courage, this question of boldness, I actually think it's really important for each one of us to define that for ourselves. What does that mean to me? What does that look like for me in my life if I was to really lean into being bold and showing up and being brave? Just jumping in here in the chat. Ryan Cox says, in the modern West, I am convinced that a lack of boldness is really, to a large degree, just laziness. Not always, but fairly often. What a good point. Oh my gosh. I'm so grateful you said that, because that's like looking in the mirror. Like, what is holding me back? And so actually, that's a really good question. What is actually preventing us from being able to walk in boldness? Is it laziness? For me, honestly, so much of the time, it's really fear of failure. I think our society, I just have seen this so many times for myself and for others. There's few people I meet who are truly brave, but man, we haven't familiarized ourselves with failure enough, especially with social media. We're in this age and in this time where we're only seeing the highlight reels, and it looks fast and it looks easy. And so then when the process becomes enduring and never ending, it's like, well, I must be doing it wrong because everyone else seems to be doing it so quickly. Yet it is in the process that we cultivate. And maybe perhaps even in the process, we get more and more crystal clear on our why than ever before, so that when we actually get into the arena, when we actually hit game time, we've deepened and strengthened our why to the point that we are unwilling to quit when the going gets tough. And so really, a thought here is, what's the purpose of this process? What's the purpose of the cultivation? Because I'm cultivating in the process, but I also think our mission ends up cultivating as well. It's like the resolve strengthens. Harish, hello. I'm glad to see you. Sleepy Harmonica, hello. Ragna, hello. Domino. Domino, thank you for being so honest. I'm honestly one of those hiding in the shadows. She's speaking truthfully. I just love this thought, like visually thinking about what would it look like for me to come into the light? Like, what would it look like for you to really be stepping into the fullness of courage for you and your season of life? That's why only you can answer this question, because no one else knows the context. No one else knows your story like you do. And so that's why, so much of what we talk about on the show is us doing the work, like me doing the work for me, because no one else can heal me like I can, because no one else has sat in the experience that I've been in. And so if we're like, okay, I'm going to outsource healing, I'm going to outsource hope, I'm going to outsource courage, or outsource, being hooked up to somebody else to give me the will and the motivation, it's never going to be enough. Only we can really come in and be the caretaker. So I just so appreciate, Domino, your honesty there. Thank you so much for that. Just looking down, and I do need to jump off here in just a few minutes. Burke says, but external conditions are important, and inner peace mostly isn't enough to fix the problems. Completely agree. I'm talking about the foundation of the bold personality, right? Like the inner state of, because if we're like, oh, I need to have a bold personality, oh, I need to be brave, I need to be courageous, I need to go into the arena, but we haven't taken the time to cultivate the necessary inner strength, man, it's going to lack the legs, and it's going to, again, have a diminished why behind it, and perhaps even lack the power and the veracity that's necessary to see it through. Mark Massery. Thanks for hanging out with us. Jay Chris, hello. I'm so glad you're here, my friend. Burke says, are you interested in philosophy? Yes, I have yet to read a ton of philosophy books, but I've read some. Honestly, the one that, I don't know if you would call this philosophy. He's not like, Marcus Aurelius, but I really, really have loved David Hawkins' Letting Go. That's been really, really good for me. Okay, just scrolling down. All right, y'all, I need to jump off. Dexter Lab, thanks for joining. Charlie, hello. Desjon, I don't know if I said it right, but Ruben Wong, thanks everybody for joining. I am hopping off. I need to go finish my book, and I'm 10 minutes over than I thought I would be. So I'm going to jump, but thank you guys so much for joining tonight. I'll see you tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. We will be hanging out on this channel, and we will be going live to just talk through a lesson for A Course in Miracles. So thank you guys for